Hey everyone, my name is Tobias and I'm running the behind the scenes of the last Amazon course. And I've actually helped Brock record like 95% of this course and sat with him, made the structure and all that. And you're probably asking, why is Brock not recording this video? And the reason is that he's currently working on a case study that will specifically show beginners how they can, even in such a scenario where we have this coronavirus outbreak that seems to be affecting the entire world, they can still go ahead, start a business, even with limited capital, and get going and even use the situation to their advantage. While he's doing this case study, we still didn't want to miss to inform you guys and give you some pointers. Of course, this situation is special and there's probably not a step-by-step guide here how to prepare for a situation like this. However, Brock and I spent a lot of time analyzing the situation the past few weeks, and we wanted to let you know kind of the thought process that we have. Also maybe the future outlook that we think is important for businesses to keep, to manage their risks, prepare for the situation, and maybe even generate a profit from the situation. In this video, I'm going to start by giving you an introduction into the overall situation of the coronavirus. But it's going to be different from what you read in the newspaper. I'm not going to focus too much on the specific numbers, also because I want this video to be more general and give you an idea of how you can think about it in the next few weeks and maybe even the next few months. And in order to take the right actions for your business, I think you also need to fundamentally understand how this disease works, how it spreads, and then how it could affect your business. So the best way of doing something like that is to look at historical data and then see what can we learn from that historical data and then project what would that mean for the future. So let's first look at China. As many of you probably already know, cases started to pick up in January in China and they grew rapidly towards the end of January. And that was right during the Chinese New Year. And during Chinese New Year, as most of you know, the factories are always closed and no business is being done in China. What is also important to know is that it's very common in China that people work in a certain city, but then travel back home to their broader family to be with them for Chinese New Year. So the whole country is traveling in order to be with their families for Chinese New Year. And then after Chinese New Year, they have to travel back to their workplace. China decided to quarantine a lot of the cities and had a very aggressive response toward the virus. And if you read in the media, you could still tell that a lot of the Western media didn't take the coronavirus as serious and also didn't consider that it could be a threat to their countries. However, you cannot always trust what people say to you. Instead, try to look at the actions people take. If you can see that a country is quarantining its entire population and other countries are reacting by canceling any air travel to those countries, then it is apparent that those countries must know that this threat is larger than they openly admit to, also because they don't want to spread any panic. Now, the important part to know here to understand why this virus is moving forward so quickly and why it seems so hard to stop is that at the moment, nobody is sure how the virus works 100%, but it seems like people can get infected with the virus, have minor symptoms or no symptoms at all for a few days and still transmit the virus before recognizing that they are sick and that they potentially have the coronavirus. You also got to consider that people who get mildly sick might not go to the hospital right away, and they still keep walking around and spreading the virus. And so far, what has been mostly communicated is a factor of 2 or 3 in terms of how many people are being infected for everyone that is already infected. So if I get the coronavirus, on average, I would spread it to 2 to 3 people. And what that means is that as long as this rate is higher than 1, the virus will keep spreading. And if we can get this rate below 1, the virus will start dying off because less and less people are getting infected. And that is actually something that we can now see now that China has been so strict and not letting people out. And it seems like the numbers are going down drastically. And something that I want to point out here is something that is not discussed often in the media, which is how are cases being identified? So we have this overall reported number of cases in the world, right? But this number doesn't actually reflect the real number of infections, just because we need to do testing before we can identify someone as having the coronavirus. And right now, so many people are getting infected that in some countries, the testing cannot be done for everyone. There's not enough testing kits. And also, only people with severe symptoms are actually being tested, and people with mild symptoms seem to not be tested all that often. That means always take these numbers with a grain of salt and question these numbers. So oftentimes the number could be much higher, but I also want to show that sometimes the numbers are exaggerated because they want to blow up some news story. If you have a look at this dashboard, which is from Johns Hopkins University, which is an institution you can trust, you will see that we have 110,000 confirmed cases, which is the biggest number in this, right? But if you actually question what does this number entail, like who's counted here, you will realize that this is also counting people that have been recovered already. So we have 62,000 people that have been recovered, but they are still contained in this 110,000 people, kind of making you think there's way more people infected right now than there actually are. So in contrast, I have actually found this website that shows the number of active cases at the moment. And you can see that it's actually not going up all the time. It's actually also going down just because there were so many cases in China, and the cases in China actually seem to go down. But now it seems to be picking up because of all the other countries where we see a large increase in cases. I think the next interesting country to look at here is probably Italy, because the outbreak there has just started and it grew rapidly. And I think what is most interesting to us here as entrepreneurs is the response that we're seeing in terms of the government. I want to make clear at this point that the threat of this disease is not necessarily how many people it will kill. Yes, it is a disease that will probably kill a lot of people if it keeps infecting more and more. However, the real worry is more so the infrastructure impact this will have. As we can see in the case of China and in the case of Italy, the countries respond by shutting down everything. They're shutting down schools, businesses, airplanes, trains, and of course, this is exactly the right response, but this is the impact that we need to focus on when thinking about what does this do towards our business. So overall, I think it's important to point out that this situation is not very similar to anything we have ever experienced in our lifetimes, no matter how old you are probably. And the closest comparison we have in history to this is the Spanish flu in 1918. And I've pulled up this graph on Wikipedia here, and overall 500 million people became infected with the Spanish flu. I'm not saying that to make you panic. I'm saying that because we need something to compare it to then take the learnings from that situation. What we should keep in mind though is that during the Spanish flu, people didn't really know what was happening. And now we have a lot of information. We also have information infrastructure that allows us to learn about this rather quickly around the world and start fighting this disease. Now, going back one more time to what happened in China and specifically looking at Wuhan, you might have seen that they actually started to build hospitals within a matter of days to be able to care for all of the sick people. And they even turned public and non-public buildings into quarantine shelters so they could separate people off. And that brings me to the point that will be the biggest issue with this disease, is that there are not enough hospitals to care for all of the sick people if everyone gets infected at the same time. And if you look at the media today, nobody is talking about stopping this disease. Most people are now talking about slowing the disease down. And the reason they want to slow it down is so that if we have it happen more gradual across our population, we will actually be able to care for more of the people because they're not all sick at the same time. Now, knowing this, we can start making assumptions about what could potentially happen here in the future. And at the moment, it seems like a lot of countries are at risk or at the point of an outbreak, where the numbers are slowly or sometimes more rapidly increasing. And most likely, the government responses are going to be very similar in most of the countries, which means they're going to do quarantines of big areas and completely shut down businesses, ask you to stay at home, and nothing is going to move anymore. And I want you to be aware that once a country starts quarantining people, they have to just keep doing that and keep doing that until it's over. Because if they stop their efforts, of course, the disease is going to break out again and start growing quicker again. That means even if the government says we're going to quarantine people for a week, you can already expect that they will keep extending that deadline further and further unless they see that the numbers are going down. And even if numbers are going down, I think a lot of countries are going to be very, very careful about going back to normal right away, just because the risk of this happening again is very, very high. I would like to also point out though that even in a state of emergency, certain supply chains will still operate, because at the end of the day, people need food and supplies to survive. And in China, there were actually still multiple courier services and food delivery services operating and delivering stuff to people's houses. So we still have to see how that is going to affect each country individually and how they're going to react towards it. But being an e-commerce business at the moment is actually an advantage in comparison to being a retail business. Just because once people start getting scared, they will order everything from online instead of going to the store. Now, you might have already known a bunch of this stuff, or there was a lot of new information for you, and this seems really, really scary. And I can relate to that 100%. When I first started looking at the numbers, it was driving me crazy when I was looking at it on a daily basis. I think it's important as an entrepreneur to see this from a very rational perspective and to consider the different scenarios that could be happening, even though they are scary. And then it is important to not fall into panic and acting on every single thought that you might have and every little scare that you might get from numbers that show up in the media. It is important that you think about things long term and not just short term, what is happening tomorrow, but then also how it's going to affect your business in the upcoming months. In the next few videos, we're going to focus on how you can ask the right questions to navigate through this tough time. I will give you some tips and pointers of what you could potentially do with your business. We're going to talk about how you could potentially profit from this situation, and then also how this will affect your supply chain and what measures you can take to still have product. We're going to try to keep these videos updated as much as possible, but we're also going to try to keep them general because the situation is changing very quickly. And we would love to hear your experience in the comments below. Maybe you can describe how the coronavirus has impacted your business so far, what measures you took up to this point, and then also what else you would like to know from us, what information you need in order to prepare for this situation. Up to this point, you have probably thought a lot about what the situation will do to your supply chain and how you get product in the future and that you might run out of stock. But considering that this crisis doesn't just affect the country you have been sourcing from, but maybe also the country that you're selling in or living in, means that you also have to take other measures and other parts of your business are in danger and need a second look. The specifics here are probably very different for every single business. So I'm going to go very broad here and describe the different areas that you should take a look and take preparations that fit with your current business. First of all, I want to point out again, e-commerce businesses are the lucky ones here. I mean, everyone that is selling products has the supply chain issues. But once panic hits your country or the country you're selling in, people will buy online instead of going to the store. And most likely deliveries will be available for longer than open retail stores. This also means that there could be potentially an increase in demand on Amazon for your product. I would say this highly depends on if you have a product that I would categorize as high need or low need product in this specific scenario. A high need product is something like face masks, right? It is something that specifically in this situation is highly needed. And in contrast, if you're selling a pet glove, people just don't necessarily have the need because it won't improve or save their life as much in the moment. And be aware that sometimes it's not as obvious which product is a high need versus low need product. It can be quite interesting to see what people buy in this situation. For example, the demand for swimming goggles went through the roof. because the disease can be transmitted via the eyes and people want to protect their eyes, and this is the best option for them to buy. So overall, your business is facing risks in multiple areas. And the first and probably most obvious area is if everything is being closed and nothing can be delivered anymore, you are out of business for a while. And how much that impacts your business probably highly depends on the size of your business and on your cash flow needs. If you are running into cash flow issues frequently already, you should have a deeper look into your cash flows and ask yourself, are you ready to be out of business for 2 or 3 months without selling anything, having your inventory sit in Amazon, but still having to pay suppliers, inventory that you ordered, loans that you have, maybe your employees or freelancers that you can't lay off? So the most practical step here is to make a list of everything that you're paying every single month and see how long can you go if your business is being closed, and then think about what costs of those could you reduce if your business is being closed for an extended period of time. Especially if you have a low ROI product, this is where you need to watch out and you have a higher risk of running into cash flow issues. In contrast, I also want to point out that the US government is trying to keep the economy going, and loans have just become even cheaper. And as a result, this also provides an opportunity to potentially get a loan, to lock in a fixed interest rate and have enough cash at hand so you can still pay for your next inventory and keep your business running. And especially make sure after everything opens back up, you are the one having inventory. And while I have described this as a massive risk to your business, if you're smart about it, this can also be a huge advantage if you have fierce competition. Because if your competitors don't take the right steps, they might go out of business or they might go out of stock and you're the only one left selling that specific product. Now, let's say the worst case scenario doesn't affect you yet. There are still other ways how your business could be affected. One of which is your employees and freelancers. If you're paying people on a monthly basis and they get sick from the coronavirus, they might be out for an extended period of time. In regards to employees, of course, it's important to follow local laws here and see if you have to pay them during the time when they're sick. But even if you have people, freelancers that are working for you full-time from the Philippines, for example, you should consider if you keep paying them while they're sick. If they have been with you for an extended period of time and they have delivered good work and you support them even through this hard time, they're very likely to stick with you in the future and be very loyal to you. So consider the long-term effect of still paying them while they're sick. And if you're facing a lot of cost pressure, you could also consider negotiating with them that they're receiving a lower rate while they're sick. I'm sure they will really appreciate your help. On another note, if you have people working locally for you, you could also consider sending people home and letting them work from home. A lot of big businesses already did this. Now, lastly, I want to talk about raising prices and reducing cost. And this is something you should be continuously thinking about throughout this process. Either if your demand increases or decreases as a result of the virus, if your business is being closed for a while, or when getting back into business when your business was closed temporarily. So first of all, consider raising your prices. This special situation might lead to increased cost in your production process, in your sourcing process, or anywhere else in your business. And you can justify increasing your prices in this specific situation. And specifically when inventory is low and demand is high, increasing prices is a good idea. So do go ahead, spy on your competitors, see how much inventory do they have left, because they might also be affected by this situation. And second, you can reduce your cost. Every single month, you have expenses that are coming up no matter what. But most likely, temporarily, you would be able to lower these costs by negotiating with your suppliers, negotiating with your employees. Especially if your business is shut down for a few weeks, doing these negotiations and thinking of smart ways how you can reduce your cost will massively help you to stay in business. Overall, consider that in these kinds of situations, businesses can go bankrupt, but it also provides the opportunity for businesses to grow and make an absolute killing. So just spending some time taking these points and analyzing your situation will probably drastically help you to increase the profits you can make in this situation. Okay, so I want to start this video off by saying that this situation could last for a much longer period of time than you might be currently thinking about. If we have a look at the Spanish flu and we look from the start of the outbreak to when it was over, everything together took roughly a year. And at that time, people didn't know how to stop this. Right now, we can take drastic measures to slow this down a lot and potentially maybe still stop this. Who knows? However, we should not ignore the fact that this might take a year or longer. So right now, the best assumption is to probably say it's taking somewhere between 6 to 18 months until everything goes back to normal, right? And when I say 6 to 18 months, this also means the situation around the world in different countries can be completely different. Since China was the first country to have the outbreak, and it seems like they're probably going to take drastic measures to make sure it stays that way. So maybe China is going to be fine all the way along, and just other countries are struggling with it. So instead of thinking of this overall, we have to think of it on a country basis. And if you think about your supply chain, it comes down to where do you sell? Where do you source? Let's just start off with the most common case, which is sourcing in China. And I think that's probably 95% of people watching. So from what we have heard from factories and also from Amazon sellers, it seems like that factories opened back up in China. And yes, they're trying to process all the backlog that they have. And they're not working at 100% productivity. But nevertheless, factories are open. Now, if you make any inquiries about making products right now or ordering new inventory, trust me, the Chinese will say yes. But always be sure to question and to get updates maybe from Facebook groups and see if those factories can actually deliver. Because they could be promising you the world to get your down payment, but then they take forever to actually deliver, or the situation changes and they can't keep their promise. So I want you to understand that there is an inherent risk that the situation will change from the time you order to the time you're supposed to get your product. So if you order today and you make a down payment of 30%, consider that maybe the factories get closed again, some situation changes somehow, or they just can't produce it as quickly. And your 30% down payment is stuck with them because you can't sell that inventory unless you got it. They might even finish the product and you pay them 100%, but then you can't get the product out of the country. And first of all, what a lot of people probably don't know is that a lot of the packages that are sent via air freight are actually sent via passenger planes and not cargo planes. And a lot of countries have banned air travel with China. So you could face problems importing products via air freight at the moment. This really depends what country you're ordering from, I would say. However, I know that lead times seem to be longer, but at the moment it seems like packages are being delivered. Again, the best way to check this is probably to be in Facebook groups where there's actual sellers who are ordering products and who can tell you about their most recent experiences. And don't listen to people that ordered a month ago or 2 months ago, because the only thing that matters is something very, very recent. So I guess there's two scenarios right now. Either you still have enough product and you didn't really need to order up to this point, but it's going to become a question at some point in the near future if you have to order again, or you're already out of stock, you're trying to make something in China, or you're already trying to make something maybe in another country. And we'll get to that in a second. If you still have inventory for multiple months, that is great. But you should start looking right now where you can get your next inventory. And you should be aware that it's not 100% certain that things go back to normal within a few months. And so you got to come up with a backup plan and maybe already start executing that backup plan, because it might take you much longer than your regular plan. If you've just put in an order in China, or you're considering to order from China right now because it seems like, yes, packages are arriving, so maybe let me order quickly before anything changes again, I just want you to consider that there's an inherent risk with ordering at the moment, just because your inventory could get stuck at any point, and this means your cash is stuck. And it's always good to then have a backup plan and maybe not take all of the cash you have, but maybe just take part of the cash to make sure that, let's say your inventory gets stuck, you could still order from a different place, from a different country, find a different solution to, again, have inventory before you run out of stock. Now, I mentioned multiple times, and it's probably something that you've been considering a lot if you have an active business. Should I move my production out of China into another country? And I've read a lot about this in Facebook groups the past weeks, and I've heard a lot of sellers talk about what they did. And I know that sellers started shifting their production into other countries. And while this is a great first step, and if you did that and by now you have production up and running in a different country, you're very likely to get the next order that you made in time into the country where you're selling. However, the way things are developing right now, consider that the new country you're sourcing from could be the next country of the outbreak. So if you shifted your production already and you can receive inventory at the moment, you might want to consider buying extra inventory so you don't run out of stock, even if the country you shifted to has the next outbreak. If you're thinking about shifting your production to another country right now, I also want you, in this case, to consider the inherent risk. If you shift your production, it means you're now reliant on that country and anything that happens within that country and the supply chain to this country that you're selling in. At this point, it's really hard to say which country has the next outbreak. And you can also see that the outbreak happens rather quickly within a matter of days to weeks until the country is potentially shut down. So if your production time exceeds multiple weeks, it's obviously more risky than if you have a low production time of a few days. This could also mean that you could consider splitting up your production into multiple phases and then shipping parts of the production already as they are done. Maybe this is more expensive, but it definitely reduces the risk that all of your inventory gets stuck in a place. In general, it would be a good approach to order smaller lots and then just order multiple times. So break your order down into multiple parts and you minimize your risk because you're only giving money to the factory step by step. And if any of your inventory gets stuck anywhere, you only have a small part of your cash tied up in that inventory. All of these steps potentially increase the cost of your product, and you should recalculate your profit margin and reconsider if the price that you currently charge for your product still makes sense, or if you need to maybe temporarily increase your price. Now, a very interesting option for sourcing is also to source in the country that you're selling in. First of all, this could reduce your lead times, allowing you to buy less inventory and be less at risk of tying up capital. And if your product is being delivered on a truck instead of an airplane going between countries, it is far more likely that your product is going to arrive before the situation gets too bad. However, do keep in mind that the prices for producing a product locally might be more than double what you're paying in China. So if you're considering this step, again, consider increasing your prices and recalculate how much money you're going to be making on this. If you're currently unsure if you're able to move product from one place to another, a good idea is also to talk to a freight forwarder or a shipping company because they will have the latest up-to-date info if shipping from one country to another one is still possible. The coronavirus is a terrible situation, but it also provides a lot of opportunity to make money. However, Brock and I don't want to promote ripping people off by selling face masks for $50 a piece online. I think entrepreneurs in this situation have the ability to help, to provide the right products that people need and want in this situation. And yes, to charge a fair premium, but to not rip people off and too much exploit the situation. So being fair and being humane goes a long way. And I'm sure in the long run, this will pay off way more for you than ripping people off over the face masks. In general, in this video, I'm not going to focus on the stock market, but only anything related to Amazon. And also more so focus on existing businesses. And we have a separate video in the beginner section that gives some advice on what you could do if you don't have a business yet. So for those of you that already have a business, you're pretty much stuck with the product you have at this point. And unless you want to start sourcing a new product and maybe adding to your brand, or maybe you sell general products anyway, then there are still opportunities for you to utilize this situation. Recently, we have seen that since so much stuff is out of stock, people start buying other stuff and repurposing it to use in this scenario. So for example, people started buying swimming goggles to protect their eyes from the virus. So as a seller of swimming goggles, knowing that people are already doing this, you could give more people the idea that this is a potential solution. So take this into account in your advertising. And maybe people didn't get the idea yet that your product would be useful in this scenario. So rethink the purpose of your product. For example, if you're selling spray bottles for the garden, maybe those spray bottles could be used to disinfect areas in the home. You should also consider who you're selling to. Let's stick with the example of the spray bottle for the garden. Maybe you've been selling to people that do work in their garden, but you could also consider large companies are now cleaning their offices and they need to cover large surfaces. And those people need tons of supplies. So it would be an option for you to not only sell to your original customer, but shift your customer to businesses that now need spray bottles. So just try to think outside the box and adapt to the situation. Of course, this is not possible with every single product out there, but I'm sure you can come up with creative ways why people would need your product in this specific situation. And also consider the self-isolation. If you're selling games right now, it's a great time to sell because potentially people are about to be quarantined for a while. And what are they going to do if they are at home all day? But people might not be thinking about this yet. So you need to open their eyes and help them prepare. And I strongly urge you to do this in a positive manner and to not use fear to get people to buy your product. However, certain products we can't repurpose and the demand is just naturally going to fall in a time of crisis. For example, luxury products have a high likelihood of falling demand. If that is the case for you, go and check out the other video where we tell you about how to prepare your business for a time where you might not be making as many sales or where even your business might be fully closed. And if you think the demand for your product is going down and you have a lot of employees that are sitting idle, maybe consider sourcing some other product, coming up with some other idea, and maybe helping people in some way go through this crisis.
All right, guys, this is the product research section, and it is the absolute most important part of your Amazon product career. This will make or break you. Like, if you do this, I don't want to say it like that, okay? But let me put it like this. If you do this correctly, it will be very easy. And if you do not do this correctly, I don't know if I will be able to help you. It'll be very hard. For example, if you source a silicone wedding ring and you only buy 500 units, I really can't help you because it's just way too competitive. Also, for example, if you try to source handerpants, all right? You try to make underpants for hands, I just don't know if I can help you. Why? Because there's no search volume, all right? And who needs underpants for the hands? Come on. However, if you source gender reveal party supplies, I can help you because somebody in the world is going to put all of that in a watermelon, make an alligator eat it, and the people are going to eat it up. Wow, look at that. But no, seriously, there's actually thousands of people buying 28,000 a month, just searching that. People making lots of money on that. It's all about finding the right market for your resources and where you can compete, and I teach all of it in this course. Really, everybody that I talk to, I know that is a successful seller, it all comes down to product research and choosing the right product when I ask them what makes them the most successful. So really put your time and effort into this. So 70% of people will never make it past product research, okay? They will literally never launch a product. And so that's where a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck in analysis paralysis and never take action. So you guys be aware of that and get past it. And of the people that actually did take action, a lot of them I think are just doing the product research incorrectly. They maybe just were not informed. They didn't have this course, of course, because they would not make the mistakes. So this is where your success comes from. So listen and take action. Now in this section, I show you guys all the ways that I go through finding products to validating them and seeing if they are a good opportunity for you. Now everybody can compete in a market, but you can't compete in every market, okay? You need to find where you have the skills and the resources to be successful. Now, there are some tools that I'm going to show you in this section that help you validate that, mainly Helium 10 and Viral Launch. I've gone and I've talked to the CEOs of both companies, made sure they're ethical. You could choose one of the tools. There's videos on the tools. I share the ways to get things done for free and then the ways to get them done paid. And then there's some where you just can't do it free and you got to get it paid. So that's validating that there's actually sales volume, you got to get a Chrome extension from either Helium 10 or Viral Launch, or there's Jungle Scout, but I don't suggest that one. But you got to get something because it's absolutely vital to get a sales estimator for Amazon. Decide which one is right for you, or both. I use both, but that's me. I'm not in your situation. My main goal is to get you guys to have a successful business, change your life, and that's what my main goal that I'm working towards is. If you guys really put in the time and the effort into this section and watch through it all, and you think logically for yourself, I just don't see why you would not be successful, or at least learn a lot of lessons and break even or something. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to be successful, because you actually have to put these thoughts and methods into action. But in this, I teach literally everything that you could do to gather the ideas. So that's what we start out with. We gather all these ideas, all right? And then we use my methodology to validate that there's actually demand and that we actually have the resources and that people might actually buy. And then if you've done that, you pull the trigger. You do it, all right? It may be scary at first and you may be hesitant, but just do it. Just do it! As long as you've done everything right before and it looks good on paper, sometimes things make sense on paper, but your gut's saying no. But if you do it, you'd be really happy. So for just one quick example, for the Eclipse, I said everybody's going to procrastinate. I should buy and hold on. But it was tough holding on to 100,000 glasses the last week before the Eclipse, but it paid off. Paid off probably close to $1 million by doing that and listening to my gut and listening to my research and thinking through it logically. Honestly, you guys are just one product away from changing your life, and this section is all about that. So I failed my first 7 products and I wanted to give up. If I would have known the information that I know now and had this course, I would not have failed my first 7 products. It'd be a lot easier. So I hope that you guys learn from my mistakes, and if you guys see one that you've made or you've seen other people made that it's not in here, let me know. I'll add it. This thing is a living, breathing document, the best one out there. And I just want to tell people, I don't know everything. All right, I'm only 25, just about to be 26 years old, and what my approach and methodology has worked, but other stuff works for other people. There's lots of ways out there. I'm not saying that I know absolutely everything, but what I'm saying is that I'm putting everything out there, and I'm willing to come in and take experts on if I'm weak in an area, which you guys will see out throughout the course. So I think that if we all can go together as a community and collectively put the information there, that we will get the best results and find the truth and the true methodologies that actually works the best. But my search methodology that I use, validating demand, I do believe that is the best because it just mathematically makes sense. Now, I want to let you guys know that everything in these videos are product research methods that I've developed myself. Well, a majority of them are. Some of the basic ones, like looking at sellers' storefronts, I didn't develop that. Some other ones, but a lot of the really in-depth ones are the ones that I've developed myself. Because I come from a mathematical approach. So these tools, I did not make these tools, but they are my tool set, what I come up with ideas from, and it may get a little complex, but hold with it. So I have ADHD and I am all over the place, and it's very hard for me to stay distracted. So that is why it is kind of hard to follow some of these videos. So if you guys could please, if you're confused or you don't understand something or you have a suggestion at a certain part, please leave some descriptive feedback. We have a template, if it's not posted yet, of how to leave feedback so that we can make the course better. But also, it's just the way that it works. Like inside of my mind, and I think others, there is not this formulaic 1 through 10 steps that you do and become successful. Life doesn't work like that. It's more like a river. It's meandering and ups and downs and everything. Okay, so that's the way that. So I have like recap videos of some types of product research methods, and then there's some of just me raw doing it. Because it's not a straight line, and I just want to get that point across to everybody that I'm always going boom, 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 boom all over the place. That's how I work, and that's how this is going to be. But I've done my best to get it organized so that you guys can learn and take from it. You guys are really going to enjoy these, and these are the first time they've ever been released out there. So I think that by using this type of thinking, you can now learn how to learn and think for yourself about products so that you can not be stuck with the crowd just using the mass YouTube search methods. I'm not teaching you I'm not giving you fish. I'm not giving you little presets. I'm teaching you how to go about thinking. So get out there and start thinking and taking action. First, we're going to show you guys where some other people run into issues and where people are misguided at times. And then we're going to show you guys some winning criteria that are just in general good to have. Now, you don't need to have all of them, but the more of these criteria that you have, the more likely it is that your idea is going to be successful. Now, there's no guarantee in this business, but by having as many of the winning criteria on your side and then avoiding as many pitfalls as possible, which is the next section, you're going to have the highest opportunity for success. So like I said, we talk about the winning criteria, and then we teach you all the tools and the methodologies that you can go out and find those great ideas. And there's more than you need in here. Then lastly, we're going to teach you guys how to validate your idea, essentially things to make sure that you have, things to make sure that you avoid, and then some other ones that you're going to have to use your own judgment and criteria on. But there's some things that you should have, there's some things that you shouldn't, and then it's up to you. But by following this general methodology, you're going to ensure that you have the highest odds of success. So I hope that this section is helpful to you guys, and let me know if you guys have any questions, suggestions, and I hope that you find an awesome product opportunity. There's 550 million products on Amazon, but there's still plenty more to add because consumer needs and wants are changing all the time. You guys can go out there and find a great product opportunity by using the right criteria and thinking differently than everybody else. Like I say, don't just take my word for granted. Think about all of this critically. And I want every one of you to think critically about this. And, if you don't like my idea, great, let me know. But I believe that these are all fundamental economic reasons that these are good ideas. And it's a living, breathing document. So if we all put in time and effort into this, we can get to the truth and find the best opportunities. I want to do a quick overview so that everybody's on the same page here. So just want to say this. So the way that shopping on the internet in the United States works is 55% of all online searches start at the Amazon search bar. And so essentially, if people are looking on the internet for a product, they're going to Amazon. And what makes it so great compared to everywhere else on the internet is that it has a 74% conversion rate among Prime members, which is bananas because the average conversion is 3.32% for most e-commerce websites. So when people are coming here, they're ready to buy. They're not searching for to solve problems. They know what their problem is and they're looking for the solution. And that's why it's so powerful. And even among non-Prime members, it's 13%. And there's over 100 million Prime members in the US. You selling products on the internet in the United States, you got to be on Amazon. So there's 562 million products on Amazon. That was earlier this year. It's probably a lot more. A lot of people think that's oh no, there's no room for more. There's plenty of room for more. And you guys will learn throughout this course how we find those good opportunities. But with 562 million products, Amazon, it's what's the problem? So when somebody looks up a word, how do they decide what to show? Well, it's pretty easy. This is literally it. So what sells? What sells? So, but what do you mean what sells? Well, what sells? When people look up pet gloves, Amazon says, well, when people look up pet gloves, what are the best selling products for pet gloves? And that's pretty much as simple as it goes at the end of the day. There's some other factors, but this is pretty much 90% of everything that the way the Amazon algorithm works. It's just what's the best selling stuff. They give a new chance to the new products, and you guys will learn everything about how to launch products and whatnot throughout it. So why does it show what sells the best? Because the main concept with Amazon is that customers are the number one important thing. That's how they built their entire platform, is by being the best, the most customer-centric business in the world, and they do always and just everything to make the customer happy. That's why we, if you've ever used Amazon, you love it. So by doing this, by showing the ones that people are most likely to buy when they search, that's good because when people are looking for something, they're coming there to buy something. So they obviously want to show what sells the best. And so we'll show you how to find good products and the right ways to do it. So, but one other concept to quickly note here is that people look through keywords, as we mentioned before, okay? So what is a keyword? Essentially, what a keyword is this will be used throughout the course, is just basically what are people typing in. So pet glove is a search term technically, and it consists of two keywords, pet and glove. So when I use keyword throughout the course, I might be saying this as the keyword, but I also, search terms are essentially basically multiple keywords put together, but basically it's not that big of a difference when I use keywords. Just think of what people are typing in. And the only time it gets a little bit different is when we're making a listing, but you don't need to worry about any of that right now. So everybody's going on Amazon and they're looking through keywords. Everybody goes to Amazon to buy. So there's a lot of products on there. What our main goal is to find where there's these good markets and opportunities to go into. So what we do though, to do that is we use product research tools and some other tools. So basically what I use throughout the course, you'll see me using Helium 10 and Viral Launch. Those are my favorite tools. What do? They allow us to see the sales. So we can go to if we type in a search term or a keyword, I'll be saying those synonymously, essentially, we can go and it shows the products that show up for it. And then this will tell us how much each one is selling. So this is per month. Yep. So that's how that works. The same thing with Viral Launch. It shows the same thing. These are different things that I typed in here. Actually, I just pulled them off Google. I'm not going to lie. Anyways. Yeah, so the other thing that they do is they help us find products, and that's what's kind of cool. So once you guys learn criteria of what to look for, or you already know what you're looking for, these help us, kind of expand out and see, okay, well, I want a product in, kind of this category that meets these kind of needs. That's what the product finders are for. And then we want to see the keyword volume. So basically, since we've determined Amazon is literally built off of how many people are looking up that word, and everybody goes to Amazon and they type in a word. So being able to see how many people are typing in what words is very valuable. So I love keyword terms. So if you're wondering why I use two, they both have different functionalities, but when you're getting started, you can choose which one. So Helium 10 tends to be heavier on keywords, and Viral Launch tends to be heavier on finding products, but you can find products through keywords. You guys will figure it out through the course and see which one you like to use the best. I just happen to use both of them because I go very in depth with the data. The reason why we need to use these tools is that Amazon doesn't provide any tools to us sellers. Unfortunately, they take all the data and they hoard it. They don't want to give it to us. They don't want to tell us what people are looking for and how much products are selling. But luckily, these tools have found ways to see very accurately how much products are selling. They're off by a little bit, but they're very, very close. And then also to see exactly how many people are looking up each word per month. So they're very valuable tools. If Amazon were to give these to us, I would tell us to use those. But Amazon is a hoarder. So basically our product research overall, we look up for words and then we want to see what are the sales. Okay, and then we want to find products and essentially that meet certain criteria for sales and certain, like what are the words that those sell through. So these tools help us do all of that. One other thing, reviews are important for social proof and to get people to buy, but reviews have no impact on ranking. So as we talked about earlier, it's what sells best through these words, not what has the highest reviews, because if you think about it, the products with the most reviews would rank for everything, and then no new products would ever show if reviews had an effect on ranking. So I'm going to show you guys kind of what we're going to be looking for, my criteria and everything, and how I use these tools hands-on and exactly what I'm looking for. But if you go ahead, we have links down there in the description for this to get some discounts on these tools. And yeah, I'll be using throughout the course. You could choose one of them, you could choose both, but you probably just need one of them. But you'll see the benefits of both of them throughout the course. So yeah, on to the next video. We need to have a serious talk. Okay, guys? So a lot of people fail at product research, and it's because of this. All right, they go in and they see a hot trend. They see something and they're like, whoa, look at all that money. You see all that money being made? I see it. You see the dollar bill sign in there? I see it. Okay. And they think to themselves, if only, I could get that a little bit right there, I would be good, and that's what like a lot of beginners and even advanced sellers that I know will go after this little bit. They see money. I will go for that. But what they don't look at is all the other important things of that market. And that's where I go. Okay, so instead, I go in areas, and other successful people do this too. They go into areas like here, and there's somebody here, and there's somebody here, and there's somebody there. But essentially, in these markets, there's a void in here, okay? And it may not always seem apparent, but when you go and you do the research and look at the data, you're able to see that there are these voids. Whereas these markets, I didn't even fill it in enough. These markets are extremely full, and these ones have voids in them. How do you find these ones instead of these ones? Well, it's all based upon consumer needs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This one, though, okay, so essentially, these ones that are really full and hard, and everybody's like, God, I wish I could have that. There are few needs. And the ones that are the best opportunities have not few needs. Nope, they have not few needs. Not only do they have not few needs, they have many needs. Okay, let me illustrate that for you. It's actually very simple. So essentially, let's use my favorite pet glove example. If this is your first time hearing about the pet glove, it won't be your last. Okay, so we have this right here. Maybe there's two needs. Does it get the fur off of your animal? Or actually, does it de-shed it? And I don't know. I can't even think of the other customer need here. Maybe price or something. But if we looked at, so if you go and look at pet gloves, essentially people are just trying to get that fur off their animal. And they don't really care. They're not bringing it to the mall. They're not going to prom with it. They might be giving it to their mom for Christmas. But essentially, there's just, basically at the end of the day, you're just trying to get the fur off your animal. And so when we have this, when we have this, just let me draw out the total choices that they have. You got the cheap one that de-sheds. You got the expensive one that de-sheds. All right, and then you have the two options that don't work. You know, the cheap and expensive ones that don't work. So when you go into these, it may seem like awesome when you look at the price on Alibaba and you go and you see the volume and you're like, wow, I could do that. But essentially, obviously, people aren't going to buy a pet glove that resheds. So those are cut out. Obviously, you don't want the reshedding ones. So you're going to get the de-shedding ones, okay? And then now maybe you could add one more factor of reviews, because reviews are important. But the markets that they're the most important in are the ones where there's only a couple needs, because you have here, all right? So essentially, there's only two needs here. And if the price is the same and one is a 1 review and one is 1,000 reviews, you're probably going to buy the one with 1,000. And same with the expensive one. So essentially, there's barely any choices. Everybody's doing the same thing, buying the same products from Alibaba. So it's just mathematically very hard. Okay, so essentially, the only way you could really make it to the top would be with PPC, spending a lot of money and really knowing what you're doing. And still then, it might not be successful because the needs are already filled there. Oh yeah, and then also, everybody says it's cheap. I want to go into it. So there's a lot of people there too. Instead, we want to go where reviews don't matter. And I'll show you why they don't matter. Because here, it's quite obvious that reviews matter. When all else is equal, you choose the one that is 1,000 reviews over 1. But we can go where it doesn't matter. You can sell 0 reviews. So let's say there's 8 different needs, okay? And before, they were like binary. So they either yes or no. It either got the fur off your animal or it didn't. It was either cheap or expensive. And it either had more reviews or less. But what if we go into one where there's 8? And all of a sudden you start drawing and, this customer wants, this customer will want this and this and this. So essentially they're there. And then somebody else wants that and that and that. So, there's another one here. But when you start to do this out, all right, so what happens when you go where the customer wants that need and nobody's solving those needs? Well, essentially, these markets do exist out there. And what about one more thing? What if instead of a yes or no, does it get the fur off my animal or not? What if there was like 85 choices on one? And then there were also other needs too. Well, think about clothing. How many times in differentiation have they done in a shirt? And there's all sorts of products out there. Or the other thing is, what about bundles? Where essentially you have different needs and different products, and you're able to put them together, and you're able to go where, hey, you're the only one with meeting that set of needs. That's where I like to go, because when you're going over here, and you're the only one there, well, all the customers are determining off what they need. and you're the only one actually serving their need. So we're going to go into customer needs more in depth, and you guys will understand this more. But the key takeaway here is it's hard to go there, and you could be the one if you go here. And it's not as hard to go here. All right, guys. So when you go up here, it's pretty hard. You need money. You got to know what you're doing, and there's no guarantee for success. But if you go where there's just a crazy amount of choices, even if there was like 2 at each one of these, you could multiply the math out, and there would be thousands of choices because nobody will ever have all their needs fully met. So go into these markets where you can get a multitude of needs. So I was just thinking about this as I was blow drying my hair, actually. What most people are doing in the summary of this whole methodology is there's 550 million products on Amazon, and everybody else is saying, which one of those? And everybody else is saying, which one of those should I copy? And I'm looking at it and saying, there's 550 million products on Amazon, and what products aren't? And that's what the whole key behind this is. Don't simply copy, come in and find, well, there's 550 million. Well, how do I make it better? Where's the holes? And by looking at these holes are where you're going to really find success. So that's essentially the summary of my methodology, not like what should I copy? What should I create? We'll go in and explain what customer needs are, what to look out for, because there's utility ones and there's consumer discretion. And you'll know what that means in a little bit here. What is the Brock Johnson methodology for doing Amazon private label? Well, it's actually changed over time. So I'm going to tell you guys what it is and what got me here, and just my whole methodology for how I've made money my whole life. All right. And what I've always done, literally, can be summed up by that right at the top there. Find a difference in supply and demand. That was it. Okay. My childhood, I was flipping stuff on auction houses and video games, making money like that. I was literally selling pennies on the internet for 2 pennies each, selling $100 at a time. So I was making money doing that. Or finding arbitrage opportunities. I guess that's the same thing as finding supply and demand. So card counting, going to these surplus stores where I would find stuff at the colleges. They'd be clearing out their old computers, and they would be clearing out all their old equipment just for basically giving it away for free. And then I would go and sell that online for a premium price. And so, that's just been the story of my life. And then slowly I got into, okay, let me scale it and then do this on Amazon private label. So then here, it's okay, where can I find that difference in supply and demand? I know a lot of other people will talk about just doing Me Too products. So, there's an opportunity to sell silicone spoons. There's not. Don't do that. Okay, but, for example, and they're not adding any value. What my strategy has been is to, find some way that I can add value so that I'm, serving people that are unserved, or a part of the market that is not served. So, whether I'm going to make just a better overall value, such as making bundles, okay? Maybe GoPro accessories, okay? I'm going to import all of the best accessories and make the most economical bundle for the person that is traveling but is only hiking, okay? So he doesn't need maybe the waterproof stuff and whatnot. So I could angle it at this niche. There's enough of those people, and I think I could really target and get that person to buy. Okay, you're just throwing stuff off the top of my head. Now we'll talk about adding features. All right, so like with the solar eclipse, there were all these paper glasses. Basically, these paper glasses, if you knew the eclipse, they let in a whole bunch of light. And I saw that, people are going to want to, this is a once in a lifetime experience. I want it to be the best. I don't want to have to be holding it up like that. And there's going to be a lot of scared people and, people afraid they're going to go blind, or people that are just like want the premium, or they're not going to want to hold it up. They're old, they're weak or something. So I just decided to go ahead and make something that would let in no light at all. So we got, I can't see anything here, but I made just the premium quality, and I made something that wasn't made before. But caveat on that, you'll learn later in the course, you have to invent within a very, very specific search term type of thinking. Okay, so you've got to, if you're going to introduce something new, you can't be that new and innovative on Amazon. We'll get into that later. But just always having a premium quality product. Something that you're proud of. You're not ripping anybody off, okay? You're just coming into this market and you're saying, all right, there is an underserved population where they're either getting charged too much or they're not getting the best bundle or the best color or the best design on top of whatever this is. So, if welcome mats, and there was never a good saying on the welcome mat. So nobody's serving this one part of the nation or this one culture. I would be in there to fill that gap. That's where I'm always thinking. And when you have the premium quality, everything just gets easier because you have higher margins for ads. You have a higher ROI. You don't have as many cash flow issues. Just literally everything in your life is going to get easier. And you can feel proud that you've brought the best product to market. So that's what my methodology is find that way to add value and just be the best. Yeah. I do want to make a caveat, however. My methodology is not the only way. I have friends that are doing 8 figures that really don't add anything much more. Okay. They're just really good at marketing, and they always have the premium product. That is a commonality among pretty much all good sellers that I know. They're always having really, really beautiful listings, the best quality and good customer service, good packaging. So that is a trait that everybody has to have. And then now your unique pitch can be different. And, I'm also going to show you just to take advantages of these supply and demand differences and other opportunities in the market where there's a trend coming up. So I will be teaching all of the different ways, but this is the one that works best for me. Just know I'm going to introduce you to lots of people in this course. And as time goes on, I want to bring more people, and I'm always going to be updating it. And then what I want to do is then build a brand or find something where I can just make a crazy amount of money in a short amount of time. That's my goal. And now it's not to make a crazy amount of money in a short time. And what you'll see is I actually did both of those with the solar eclipse, because I built out 44 different SKUs, and what I did, so building a brand, you're just going to fill out that entire market, okay? You're going to find every one of those niches, and you're going to find their needs and solve them, with different products or different variations of the same products or different bundles and whatnot. And then essentially, so you just build this moat, and then you're just the well-known person in that. So that's what I did with the eclipse. I knew it was going to end, but I just ran the numbers and said, okay, this could be big enough. And my goal was then to just make money. But that is not my goal anymore, because I'm now purpose-driven. I want to help other people, help myself, help the whole world by building technology that's going to help make our lives better, and then also help inspire people and just show them what I've learned, and just from day to day that's made me happier. Collectively make tools that could just automate and make our lives better and help everybody achieve their goals. Yeah, that's my theory on it all. And so we're going to be going through in this course, and I'll just be showing how I think the best way to find these differences in that supply and demand, to get the arbitrage, to get the money is, but then how you can also do this to make something that's more long-term. But just keep in mind, what are your goals, and tailor all of this to helping you achieve those. And don't forget what those goals are when things get tough. So let's get on to it actually. Tactical.